Hi guys and welcome back to Podcasting Cars. It is raining again. I don't know if you guys would be able to hear. It's a little bit quiet. Hence why I'm inside. But yeah, I thought let's go film another Podcasting Cars. Yay! So today's video is going to be about the Jap versus German in the scene. In last week's episode, I actually kind of half touched upon this, where I spoke about why I don't go to car shows and car meets and stuff anymore. And one of the shows that I used to join a lot was the Jap versus German show. I say join a lot. I got my car, I went to one, and then basically the big virus that went around the entire planet. Yeah. Anyway, so one of okay, I'm gonna apologize straight up here. I didn't write a script for this one. I thought I want to see how I do just trying to go free flow. So this one might have a lot of stutters and ums and not knowing what I actually want to discuss. Anyway, so let's talk about that show for a little bit. So in this country, there's a very big rivalry, I want to call it, against the German cars versus the Jap stuff. Now that's like how in the States they've got the Camaro versus Mustang. It's car rivalries and stuff like that. Holden versus Ford in Oz, the Aussie of Australia. I think that's correct. Anyway, basically, my point being that there's car rivalries and like group rivalry kind of things. It's not anything particularly vicious or, vandalizing each other's cars or anything extreme. It's just, yeah, it's just normal car rivalries that happen. Even like Lambo versus Ferrari and stuff like that. So, I mean, it is understandable, and it's good rivalry. It brings out people being competitive and wanting to make better cars because of it. So that's 100% fine. So in this country, obviously that's a very big thing, and we actually have an event. Oh, I thought my dash cracked again. I've got a small crack of a dash. Anyway, moving on. We went. There's a show that basically has. It kind of promotes this. Is promote the correct word? I don't know if promotes is the correct word. But it talks about, or not talks, it has a show where you can bring either your JDM or your Euro German branded car, and you can come park up, and then they've got like a section for sound. They have a proper show section where most of the cars that are going to be winning awards are. Although you can win an award wherever you are within the show. Then they've got like their classic cars, where they've got like the VW Beetle group they got up there. Obviously the MX-5 group actually doesn't really join, to be honest with you. And now this is where things start to go a little bit downhill. It's because I feel like I spoke about this in the last episode as well. There's a very big bias in the country towards German cars, so none of the JDMs win, which means that the JDM guys kind of lose interest in going, because there's cars that definitely should have won in compared to what did actually win, and we didn't. In my personal opinion, that's how I feel. Like I said in the last episode, some of the cars that did win are exceptionally clean and they do look really good, but compared to some of the stuff that was also there, irrelevant German or Jap. Can I turn my window up, because I think the rain is actually getting so loud on the tin roof that it's actually going to come up on my video. So let me Miata window problems. Yep. Don't start playing music. I don't want to get copyrighted. Thank you. Rise. I almost swore there. I do remember. I'm trying to swear less. Okay. So there's just people feel that it's a little bit biased, in short. Now, where a lot of the Jap versus German comes from, I don't actually know the history on like why. I do know that obviously German brands, I believe, came into the country before the Japanese brands, but the Japanese brands, when they did come in, were cheaper and pretty much plus minus the same performance levels. So yeah, I'm not really sure on that whole principle, so I'm not really going to comment on that side of the story. What I am going to comment on is the fact that I've personally found, whether it be through TikTok, Instagram comments, even here on YouTube, stuff like that, the German community is a bit cocky. No offense to you guys, because I know it's not everyone. It's probably a smaller niche within a larger community that just happens to be like that. Like I said in the previous video, same with some of the JDM guys, some of the guys with the Mark IV Supras, R34 GTRs, or just the GTRs in general and stuff. They tend to be a bit cocky and they don't like to communicate with us lower fields with our little Miatas or Subarus or stuff like that. So I understand it could just be a section of the community, but like, for example's sake, on last week, I think it was last week Wednesday, basically, when I filmed the podcast in cars, I made a short little TikTok referring to somebody else's video about turbo lag, and I was like, oh, well, my car is a really good example of this because of how I spec'd my car when I built it, because I didn't really want lag. Now, that's a whole nother video and a whole nother topic and blah, 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 but I'm not really going to go into that. But in short, I mentioned how theoretically, and then comparing 0 to 60, 0 to 100 times, my car was actually faster than another Miata with a bigger turbo, because that turbo had too much lag, so mine was in boost and held the power for longer. In very brief, that's what the TikTok was about. I obviously went into a little bit more in-depth conversation with it and such, but yeah. But I had a guy comment, and he was trying to fight me and be like, oh, we'll come race my 400 horsepower, because I said 200 horsepower Miata versus 400 horsepower Miata, and mine would be faster, in theory, to 60 and then 100. Obviously, in a physical one-on-one race, it might end up being different because shifting and stuff, but comparing my 0 to 60 times, of which I have recorded, versus, oh my gosh, that made the whole shop vibrate. Thunder's wild, my dude. Versus his 0 to 60 times that he's recorded and stuff, my car was technically faster. And this guy in a VW Polo Golf GTI R thing, I don't know, he commented, it was just like, oh yeah, we'll come line up your car, your very fast 200 horsepower, my 400 horsepower will smoke you, blah blah blah. And I was like, that's not the point of my video. The point of my video was just saying how turbo sizes can actually be bad, and I was trying to describe the fact that, you know, my little Miata with a manual gearbox and like 30-year-old, you know, stuff is better with a smaller turbo. Also, a turbo that is period correct, inverted commas. It's a 90s turbo, whilst he's got like a modern car with an automatic and flappy paddle. So I mean, it's an aggressive gear change with like almost zero gap between the gears, and so on and so forth. This is what I mean by the German community can sometimes be a bit cocky, because they just feel like they are superior, and I'm like, I don't. You definitely are faster, my dude. Don't get me wrong, you are faster. I know this. I may have less horsepower, and I may have been talking about how I beat somebody with more horsepower, but I'm not saying that I'm faster than anything else on the road. I'm just simply trying to state the fact that my car was fast in that scenario because of the turbo size difference. I'm not trying to And this was all like theoretical. There wasn't a physical race that took place either. So I mean, like, I don't even have like video evidence to back me up. I could be wrong, and I fully admitted to that. Oh, I just find it funny how some of these guys take things so seriously, and I'm just like, my dude, it was a short little TikTok video. What do you want from me? I've also had like, just in general for road experience, okay? And this whole video, I know it's at 10 minutes at this point, but this whole video is going to seem like I'm hating on German cars, and I really don't. There are some ones that I appreciate greatly, and there are some people in the German community getting a notification. Great, I should have turned off my vibrate. Anyway, there are German people in the German community that in the German car community. I don't necessarily know people from actual German communities, but anyway, that are really cool and they're really nice people. They're very interested in the JDM side of things as well as the Euro side of things. I know people on the JDM side that are also interested in the Euro stuff, blah, blah, blah. It goes back and forth, and that's 100% fine. And I have obviously no quarrels with this. Where I draw the line is basically with the ones that are a little bit superiority complex. I don't know how else to describe it. For reference sake, because I don't know if I've mentioned this in a video or not, my little Miata gapped a BMW 240. I used to tell people there was an M2, but thinking back on it and then having seen another one since then, I think it was actually a BMW 240M, whatever. I was picking up stock for my dad, and then we were lined up at a set of lights, and he got the launch. I think those are all-wheel drive because it was the new ugly front bumper shape. And as far as I'm aware, all of them are now all-wheel drive. Anyway, so I mean, like, he gunned it. I put my foot down, and in low boost on first gear, I kind of stuck with him or didn't let him pull any further. Then as I changed to second, clicked high boost, and I'm getting another notification. Clicked high boost in second gear. Kind of pulled on him. Shifted to third, shot a big flame out the back, pulled in front of him. What's that, dude? Yeah. Okay, can we not get notifications? Thank you. So yeah, but that guy just spent like a mil or more on his BM, and now he just got smoked by some, you know, like 32-year-old Jap shitbox thing. I find that very funny. Anyway, my point being is I've just found that a lot of that side of the community tends to be a bit cocky. I also tend to find that they're a bit inconsiderate. For example, we went to a car show. I think I mentioned this in the previous video as well. Myself, Callum, Sean, who's got a FDRX7, Jared, who's also got all MX-5 like myself, a whole bunch of guys. We ended up going to a car show meets kind of thing that was at a car wash. They were doing like a promotional thing for themselves, and it was all of the German guys that just sat there revving, popping. Okay, no, correction. Not just the German guys. It wasn't just BMs and VWs that were doing that. It was also Ford Fiestas, Fiesta STs, and there was one Mazda CX-5, CX-3. So the Mazda SUV. I don't know why. And then I do know that the GTRs, the R35 GTRs, were doing it as well. But as far as I'm aware, they actually asked the GTRs to do that for a promotional video. So I don't know how to comment on that half. But I know, look, the other guys could have been asked as well. I don't know. And I kind of feel now bad for commenting on it because I haven't got all my facts. But yeah, just for a lot of the shows that I've been to and stuff, they land up just doing burnouts and popping and banging, of which, again, you know, as I said in the previous video, I have no issue if you do that on the way out. Oh my word, it's raining terribly hard right now. I don't know if you guys can even pick it up. I have no issue if guys want to do that when they're leaving the meet or something like that. But inside the venue, and then also what really upset me is in that venue there were cats walking around, stray cats, okay? Have some respect. Especially if there's wildlife, inverted commas, on the premises. Because, you know, it can, if they had hit a stray cat, that's like really big issues, especially for me. I'm a very big wildlife person, and I try my best to do like support shelters and blah 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 with my girlfriend. And that would have devastated me if like somebody had landed up hitting a cat on the way out because they wanted to sit and do a burnout and show off their BM. So I don't know, just that's what I was talking about in the last episode, more so the respect in the community, and how I feel that's kind of dissipated and been lost. But you know, it kind of applies in this video as well, because unfortunately it does tend to be the German community. Now I'm going to be 100% honest, I think it's mainly we see it in the German community over the JDM community because there's more people in the German community than there is the JDM, so there's obviously a higher percentage of them that would land up being like that and doing that kind of stuff. I don't know. In terms of the physical cars themselves, because I've been rambling about the community side of it, but let's try and move past that now and let's talk about the physical cars themselves. I know an argument that's brought up a lot is how, you know, we all like to say that the Jap stuff is better than the German stuff, but then the German guys like to bring up the fact that the Japs haven't really made sports cars since like 2005, pretty much. That's when like most of the JDM companies and stuff stopped making. I mean, the Honda S2000 I think stopped in 2007, if I'm correct. Somebody please correct me down in the comments. The GTR I believe was launched in 2007, the R35, but the R35 is kind of an exception because they just continued to make that. But the Toyota Supra died in 2000, pretty much. The RX-7 died in 2002, if I'm correct. The MX-5 continued to be made. Yeah, go MX-5s, hells yeah! But, like, majority of the Jap stuff kind of tapered off. I mean, even the Nissan Zs, the 350Z, between the Z32, so the 300ZX Z32, and the 350Z was a huge gap compared to what had previously been done. So it kind of did die off and then hit a little bit of a rebound. Nissan is determined not to kill their sports cars. Go Nissan. But yeah. So a lot of the cooler JDM cars, I mean, Honda also killed off the NSX after 2004, if I'm right. I don't know, someone can correct me with the physical dates and stuff, but I'm just going to go off kind of rough numbers. My point being, a lot of the cars tapered off there, whilst the German cars, I suppose Germany kept making sports cars, but I think what people are more so referring to is the cheaper, sportier cars. Irrelevant if it's a three-door hatchback kind of thing, or a five-door hatchback, or five-door saloon, sports saloon, or a two-door sports car, as long as it was cheap and, you know, could continue, and obviously was like well performing. Mercedes obviously had the SLK. BMW has always had the M series, whether that be the M3 at the time, I suppose, and now the M4, and now they've got the M2 and stuff. I suppose the Golf GTIs and Golf Rs do count in this category as well, because I'm also looking at like things like the Mazda 6 MPS and the Mazda 3 MPS, so I suppose I do have to look at those cars as well and count those. So a lot of the German cars kind of held formation I want to say. And like they continue to produce their smaller, cheaper two-door sports cars. Obviously, relatively speaking, the JDM stuff is cheaper. If we look at the price of a modern MX-5 versus a modern BMW 2 Series or Mercedes SLK, the Miata is definitely cheaper. So I'd actually be interested to know, what did a SLK go for at the same time that the Honda S2000 was being launched? Just out of interest sake, I feel like, was the S2000 cheaper? Because S2000s now in the second-hand market are exceptionally pricey. So I don't know. I'd be interested to know. If anyone does know, please let me know. Yeah. But I have a very big thing, and my dad. So my dad used to work for Federal Mogul, who is the people who brought in the OE supplier pistons, rings, different engine parts, and so on and so forth. The gaskets, even from basically you could rebuild your engine with parts from them, and they also supplied different manufacturers. So Toyota and Suzuki and stuff here in the country, they supplied them. As far as I'm aware, please, Dad, if you're watching this video, please correct me in the comments as well. Everyone can correct me in the comments. Cool, 100%. But what my dad once said, and it made a lot of sense, is, okay, he used BMW as an example, and this might not be an example for the grander scheme of German cars, although it does kind of, from what I've seen about the tuning scene in the German community, this does kind of follow through for all manufacturers. Well, my dad said this: BMW builds an engine at the peak of what that engine can do. So when they've built an inline six turbo that's meant to go into, I'm going to use the 3 Series for an example, but obviously it goes in the 320 all the way up until the 330i thing, M spec. Yeah. That turbo inline 6 goes all the way up. I think it even goes to a 340 now, if I'm correct. I don't know. But my point being, okay, that engine goes up in the line. And yes, the bottom specs aren't necessarily to that, but you want the higher end specs. That's like me saying, okay, well, a lower spec JDM versus, it's like getting a Mazda 3 instead of a Mazda 3 MPS, if that makes sense. So you want the MPS, inverted commas, which would be the 340 or the 330. Those engines from BMW are built to like the pinnacle of what that engine can do. BMW has strung the engine so nicely that it will perform great and stuff. That's why BMWs, Mercedes, Volkswagens, so on and so forth, are really well performing out of the factory, which is why they outperform the Jap stuff from out the factory. I will 110% concede to that. A German car from factory will outperform JDM every day of the week, like not even a chance. But you want to start modifying that engine now to make more power and stuff, it starts to become dodge, because that engine's already kind of on its limits, plus minus. Now, there are exceptions within that, don't get me wrong. There are engines that are exempt from this situation because they were built really nice. I know that the B52, whatever it is, that's in the new Supra, the new Toyota Supra, which is obviously in a lot of other BMs as well, that apparently is one of the really cool tuner engines that doesn't require much modification to make almost double its horsepower. So that I will concede to is a good tuner engine. Funny how it's in the Toyota Supra, isn't it? Wow. Okay, the whole Toyota with BMW is a whole nother topic, and I'll go that in that video for like another, maybe next week's video. But I just think it was worth mentioning in this video. But yeah, we, as a JDM engine and car, you know, they're they're kind of over-spec'd for what they're capable of doing. For example, the 1.6 that's in my Miata is capable of making, I believe, like 280 horsepower. The engine, not the gearbox and diff, but the engine turbocharged. Uh, the stock engine can pretty much hold like 280 horsepower. Now, considering the fact that this makes a 90 horsepower at the wheels from factory, that's a huge horsepower gain without needing to modify anything within the engine. Now, obviously, don't, go turbocharge your Miata just straight like that and try run those numbers. It probably has to be rebuilt. They are 32-year-old cars. Now, this is where I hear a lot of argument, because a lot of the German guys say, okay, well, sorry, my dad walked into the shop with a customer, so I kind of had to stop recording and being, yeah. So what I was saying was, where a lot of the argument then comes in from the German group is the fact that, yeah, well, it's an older 90s shape car, and in the 90s they kind of really overspec'd cars for some reason, like just manufacturers in general, especially the JDM stuff, hence why the Mark IV Supra with the 2J, basically hence why the 2J can get to ridiculously high horsepower numbers on like a stock bottom end, and even like stock top end. I think it can get to like 500 horsepower or something like that. Don't quote me on this, I'm just shooting random numbers from my head. But my point being that then they bring up the argument, okay, well then look at some of the older like E46 and E36 engines and how well those respond to tuning and being force induction when they weren't meant to, and then obviously that's where you think being forged would help and stuff. Those engines can also, they have very large gaps that you can cover because I don't know how to describe what I'm trying to say. It's basically the same like how my engine can have such a big jump in horsepower numbers without actually having to modify the engine, of which I agree with. But if you look even at modern cars, so for example the Mazda 3 MPS is known about this. That 2.3 liter turbo makes, I think, 230 horsepower, 250 horsepower, somewhere about there, if I'm correct. Again, somebody please correct me in the comments if I'm wrong. But that engine has, I think if you just change like the fuel pump or fuel pressure regulator or something like that, you can jump to like 380 to 400 horsepower, 420 horsepower, something like that. It jumps horsepower numbers crazy with just one mod. Okay, and a tune, I suppose. But my point being, whilst, modern BMs and stuff, you can go take them to go get tuned, and they will make more horsepower, but almost double the horsepower figures from factory. Okay, I suppose my numbers could be wrong though, but this is all just stuff that I've heard. Obviously, I haven't owned a Mazda 3 MPS, I can't really comment, and I haven't owned a BMW, so I can't really comment. Again, this is all just things that I have heard from owners of said cars. Although they could be bullshitting me, who knows? So, I don't know, just that part of the conversation is actually what interests me. I know the first half of this video, more than half, was me just complaining that the German community kind of misbehaves in the car scene. But this is actually the part that really interests me in the rivalry between the Jap versus German. How the engines respond to being built and tuned and stuff. I don't know, yeah. I don't know. To be 100% honest with you, I think the JDM side of things has died in recent. Because, I mean, what have we got? We've got the Infinity, which is like only a States brand. It's basically Nissan's. We've got, obviously we've got the 400Z now, which is what uses those Infinity engines, what brought it to mind. which are really cool. I like the 400Z, and I also think we need to give Nissan some appreciation for the fact that they just kept a manual gearbox, even though the auto is faster. They kept the manual gearbox simply because driving fun. Now, obviously, Toyota with the new Supra has added also manual gearbox. I think that's also another topic that we should go into. We should have a topic talking about the new Toyota Supra, because clearly there's lots to talk about it. Uh, anyway, but the Supra's obviously got a manual now as well for driving experience, although that's a German engine, so I don't know if that really counts. Although Toyota did a lot of modifications to the head apparently, and it performs differently. Like apparently, if you want the Toyota Supra B58, B58, B52, I can't remember what it's called. You have to kind of go to Toyota for it, but if you just want a normal one, then you could go to BMW. I'm not sure. Again, random rubbish that I've heard off the internet. And let's be honest here, don't listen to anything that you hear on the internet. Why are you even watching this video? Actually, please continue watching this video and like and subscribe and stuff. Thank you. That really helps me. But like, what else do we have? There's the 400Z. There's the new Miata. I guess there is the new Acura NSX, but that's kind of like a rare, almost supercar kind of situation. So does that really count? I'm trying to more so count like the more affordable ones. I mean, Miatas are expensive, like the new ND Miata is expensive, but it's also still like an affordable two-door sports car, relatively speaking to other two-door sports cars. What else is there? There's... I genuinely am struggling to think. Whilst for the German side of it, I can think of cars. Easy. There's the BMW M2, BMW 340, BMW M4, M3. And those, I suppose they're more expensive than the JDM equivalents. And that was just BMW, by the way. There's obviously the Audi TT, there's the Mercedes SLK, so on and so forth. But now, they're obviously more expensive than the JDM equivalent, but they're affordable compared to still like proper sports cars. Plus minus, I suppose. I don't know. They're close to the pricing of proper sports cars, but in the same breath, they are also borderline proper sports cars, and not just little toys like weekend toys. I don't know. Let me know your thoughts on the whole JDM Jap situation. Firstly, what you found in the community, and then secondly, how you find their cars. Because I know that in the States, everyone goes ham for the Euro cars and the BMs and stuff, and then here I like everyone looks at it and is like, oh my gosh, please stop, because we've got so many here. It's like, because I know in the States they freak out about the M4 and stuff like that, and here we get them like it's every third car you see almost. Not really, but you understand my point. So I'd be interested to know what you guys think and how you guys feel about the whole situation. I have preference simply just in body style design. I prefer JDM, especially from the 90s. The FD-RX-7 is like peak body lines. Also the Honda NSX. Oh my gosh, that's like peak body styling. But I suppose the Germans have had their cars as well. Anyway, I have gone on long enough about all of this rubbish. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please leave a like and consider subscribing for next week's video, where we're most likely going to talk about the Mark 5 Supra, because what else do we do? Anyway, and then until next time, guys. Cheers.